So, how did I get so good at art? It's a question I'm asked pretty frequently, and I figured, why not? Why not turn on my camera and have a little bit of a conversation about it? So, for those of you who don't know or maybe haven't been around the channel, my name's Noah. I'm an artist and an author. Most recently, I've been doing character portraits and scene settings for my book that's coming out this summer. This is kind of the stuff that I've been doing more recently. Just character art with a single ballpoint pen, mostly realism, but with some level of like impressionistic paints to facilitate my aesthetic and what I really want to present to my reader. I've worked in multiple traditional mediums such as oil paintings, graphite, even sculpture. I don't have a college degree. I never went to university or pursued it at a higher level. It's all just self-taught artists over here, which I think is a pretty ordinary thing in 2025. I think that there's a lot of self-taught artists making a name for themselves. But yeah, this might, I guess, not even be a super original video given that fact, but you know, this is my video and this is my journey. So I think that the most common sentiment I receive when someone's looking at my art for the first time or they see me in like a bar or a coffee shop when I'm working is it's first, amazement at the technical proficiency displayed, but then I usually hear them say something along the lines of like they could never do art at this level, they could never, do X, Y, or Z. And I think that comes from a very real place of amazement, but it's something that I completely categorically disagree with. Anyone who has endeavored to do something at an extremely high level, at least in my opinion, knows that it's not really a matter of innate ability, it's just time, and anyone can do it to a certain extent. Right now, if I chose to drop everything and become a master of the trumpet, if I devoted my whole life to getting good at this instrument, I could. There's no natural ability that's going to get me there any faster or slower than anybody else. Marginally speaking, there's some people that are like gifted, some people that are prodigies, but for the most part, it's not a natural ability that really cultivates technical proficiency. It's just time and understanding how to learn. That being said, I started taking art pretty seriously when I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I always loved drawing before then, when you're in middle school and going into high school, you can kind of choose if you want to be in band or if you want to be in choir or art. And, I always oriented towards art. I enjoyed doing it. But I didn't really start taking it seriously until probably my 15th birthday. My father is a calligraphy artist. And for my 15th birthday, he gave me a book on artistic anatomy. It was basically just this book that was analyzing the study of the human form. And I don't know how intentional that gift was supposed to be, but let me tell you, I read that thing cover to cover more times than I could count. I was using it still a decade later when I was like honing my ability to draw the human form. That skyrocketed my technical proficiency from a very young age. Before that, I wouldn't have considered myself any better than any of my peers. I wasn't some like artistic prodigy as a kid. I did it when I was at school, and I doodled when I was like at work, when I was working at the climbing gym. But for the most part, it was just something that I enjoyed to do as a hobby. And then after that, it was really all that I could think about for a pretty long time. I started studying art nonstop, and I think that's another really deep sentiment that I think really defined my artistic journey, was the understanding that time is important when we're speaking about getting better at something, but also it's really important to learn effectively. So there's a lot of people that say, just draw and you'll get better, which is true. If you just continue to draw, you'll get better. But also not really. Like, you have to be progressing in some sort of a meaningful way, at least in my opinion and from my experience. You need to be orienting towards goals and, subset goals. I think that, it's fun to just take out a sketchbook and doodle. And, I hear people giving artistic advice that, yes, you just always have to have your sketchbook with you and you just need to draw once a day. It doesn't matter what you draw, you just have to draw once a day. Yes, that's ultimately true. But if you don't know how to draw, it's not really helping you. No, it's not even my opinion. If you don't know how to draw and no one's teaching you how to draw, you'll get marginally better, but you're not going to get that much better. So that being said, I think that the only thing I could say in this entire video, and I could just end it here, is that just use the resources available. At this point in 2025, if you want to get better at art, you just will. It's almost impossible not to get better at art. If I'd say 9 out of 10 people who wanted to get better at art, the first thing that they would do is they would go to Google or YouTube and they would type into the search bar how to get better at art. And I'd say over half of the videos that you would receive will get you there. I mean, there's some people out there giving some pretty piss poor advice, but for the most part, you'll get a video that's an art tutorial. It might be a paint by the numbers, a step-by-step, or it might just be techniques. It might be a holistic view of art in general or drawing or whatever medium you want. But I think that sitting here and explaining how you viewer should get better at art, I think that that's both beneath me and above me. I mean, beneath me because I don't need to insult your intelligence. You know how to get better at art. Look on the internet. It'll get you better at art. That's how I got good at art. And above me because I don't really have the credibility to teach you how to do art. Like I said, I didn't go to university. I'm not an art major. I've never even worked in the industry. I'm a soldier. But that being said, I got good. I got pretty darn good at art just by the internet. That's it. The internet and books. That is the extent of my artistic journey, is being intentional about my learning and applying it every single day, orienting towards something. And I do think that there is something to be said about that. When I decided not to go to art school, I couldn't afford to go to art school, I joined the Army, and I continued. I never skipped a beat. The moment that I could, I got another sketchbook, and across all of my deployments to the Middle East, anytime I could when we were in the field, hell, even sometimes when we were on target, I had my sketchbook and I was drawing. And it's kind of turned into this really wonderful relief for me. I don't really know that I'll ever do it professionally. The extent to which I would like to do art professionally is to continue to do art for my novels. I would like to be an author professionally if I can get there. But as far as actually doing commission pieces and selling them, I don't really see myself doing that, and that's completely fine. That doesn't take away from the skill that I've achieved, and it doesn't really take away from how I'm going to grow and get better, which I am. Especially, hopefully, within the medium that I'm currently pursuing, which is calligraphy. It's a beautiful circle. My father was a calligraphy artist, and it's, for whatever reason, that's the medium that I just never really attempted until a month ago, and it's difficult, but yeah, I think that that's important to understand when you're attempting to get good at anything, is that, yeah, just be intentional about your learning and you will get good. Also, I guess community. Community is important. Being around like-minded people, I'd say that that's the biggest thing that I've been missing in my artistic career, is a community of artists. I have never had a community of artists, and I still don't today. Not in person. I chat with some people over the internet very vaguely about different ideas, but I do not have an artistic community. I'm still in the military. Not a whole lot of artists, except for really bad aspiring tattoo artists. And, that's fine. That's okay. Then, you get a really cool dude every once in a while, but for the most part, it's just not a huge community. And I think that is something that would be super, super healthy for me, and it's something that I've always yearned for, to have a really passionate, like-minded community of artists. I think that is something that art school would really help with. Again, I don't know, never got a chance to go, but if there's anything that I would say, it's that you can achieve a very high level of technical proficiency just by doing the minimal effort of looking on YouTube and trying to find your medium. I guess now that I think about it, I could have prepared some of the tools that I use, like some of the YouTube channels that I learned from even back when I was a kid, because there's one channel specifically that I have literally been watching their art technique tutorials for a decade now, longer than that, and it's helped me grow significantly as an artist. But drawing studies are super important. Getting out of your comfort zone and just working, and like I think that it's kind of okay to be a one-trick pony. If you are really interested in drawing and have absolutely no desire to paint, don't paint, just draw. You know, if you really want to sculpt, then just get really, really good at sculpting. And I don't even know that that's worth saying. Like, this might, like I said, this is probably not going to be an exceedingly original video. The amount of self-taught artists that exist now probably outnumber those who've received a traditional education, just because of how exorbitantly expensive specifically creative universities have become. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable. You know, I did it, and I'm just a dumb grunt. But yeah, so I guess there's like a quick 10-minute blurb, I guess, of my artistic journey that turned a little bit into advice from, again, someone who has absolutely no credibility to be giving advice. But yeah, it's me. I'm an artist, and I'm okay at it. Y'all have a good night.